Well, boys, there have been a lot of football games played since we last recorded a podcast. I think we should get into it. This is Red Card Radio. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're listening from. Thanks for tuning in. Red Card Radio is a weekly look at the Premier League from three friends who support different clubs. My name is James. I support Arsenal. With me tonight is Brad. He supports Chelsea. Down below that is Sean. He supports Tottenham. Gentlemen, good day. Hello. How are you?
Good.
I'm feeling fantastic. I think I'm feeling the best out of everybody here.
Yes, I feel bad about my team, but our teams have picked up the same number of points since we last spoke. So,
Yeah.
But I feel bad about that. I feel bad about that. So that's true.
There's a different set of expectations here. I don't know. I don't know what you're working with. Hey, and our draw to Bournemouth looks better every single week.
I mean, my team lost to Bournemouth, so yeah, it's. Have you guys been to Bournemouth yet, Brad?
Yeah,
check on that.
Game.
Check on that while I'm doing the YouTube stuff. But if you're new here, if you just come across it, hit that subscribe button, ring the sub notification bell if you found us on YouTube. If you're on one of the podcast sites, follow, 5-star review. Also, Spotify now has comments enabled, so if you are on Spotify and you want to drop a comment, we will check it out there. Kyra, thank you for that comment on YouTube. We really do appreciate it. But what were you saying, Brad? You saying
match week 4.
Did you guys win?
Cuckoo with the 86-minute goal to win the game.
Oh, so wow.
0-1.
Wow. Chelsea are like the one team to win at the Vitality this year.
Yeah, we lost 1-0 to them at Vitality.
We lost 2-0, but we also had a 30th minute red card. It was equal even when we went down to 10 men. And then the very next day, Chelsea defenders do the same exact thing Saliba does and don't get a red card. Anyway, that was like match week 12. Anyway, that was 1,000 years ago. What we're doing here tonight. So if I can draw your attention back a week ago, when you were listening to the last review episode, I had told you that some of the midweek matches from round 21 had been played. And we kind of previewed a few of those, specifically the North London Derby. We'll talk about that game and then some of the fixtures from round 22 at the weekend. Just as a quick, palette preview or what I don't know what I'm trying to say, but as a preview for what I'm going to talk about, I have the league table up on the screen here. If you're on YouTube, you can see that most teams have played 22. Liverpool and Everton, of course, still on 21 because they have that Merseyside derby in hand, and Liverpool presently have a 6-point lead at the top. With one game in hand, Chelsea sneak back into the top 4. City and Newcastle round out the 6. Fulham is the team in 10th, which, interestingly enough, leaves Manchester United in 13th, West Ham in 14th, Tottenham Hotspurs in 15th, Everton 16th, and the 3 teams in the relegation situation at the moment are 18th Ipswich, 19th Leicester, and 20th Southampton. Leicester and Southampton are on a great run of form. They've got 5 losses out of 5. They're really crushing it. Speed running their way to the championship. We will be saying sayonara to probably all 3 of those teams come May.
Question.
Yeah, go for it.
Does Southampton set the record for fewest points ever?
We discussed it was like Derby at like 12 or something like that.
Yeah,
and they're 14. It's entirely possible. I mean, they are a dismal team. Did you see the goals that they let in?
11 points.
Did you see the goals that they conceded to United?
No.
Like the Ramsdale like catches the ball and just like it slips through his hands into the net. It's just like, it's incredible. I love Aaron Ramsdale. I was disappointed when Arsenal replaced him, when Arteta replaced him, but he has had such an incredible drop off at Southampton.
I mean, so this is an interesting conversation to have, right?
Let's have it then.
Does he have Saliba and Gabriel in front of him?
No, obviously not. The defense at Southampton is obviously much worse than the defense at Arsenal.
Right.
No, but he does have at least a mid-table or better center back in front of him, Harwood Bellis, who is going to, when they get relegated, somebody in there, Brentford, Fulham, Brighton, somebody is going to pick him up.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
That's what Southampton do. They produce people that get picked up.
Yeah, they're a selling club.
I could even see Villa doing it. I mean, they're not in need of a center back, but Tottenham are living proof that having extra center backs around are not a bad idea.
Because you guys don't. Yeah, because you guys don't. I mean, right. So, but what I'm trying to say, Sean, is that the goalkeeper is only as good as the defenders in front of him, right? Like before Nick Pope got to Newcastle, do we think Nick Pope was like as good as Nick Pope is?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I watched enough of Nick Pope pre Newcastle. But I think back on some of like Aaron Ramsdale had a number of incredible saves for Arsenal. He also had a number of incredible blunders for Arsenal. And so like it's just the number of blunders that, and I guess he broke his finger recently, so possibly like there's some underlying issue there with a broken finger. He had an interesting goalkeeper glove made for him where it was, instead of 4 fingers, it had 3 fingers, and the middle 2 fingers were like went into the same part of the glove because his fingers were taped together.
That's interesting.
Pretty intriguing. This was like 2 weeks ago. I don't know if he's still wearing that glove or not. But I just, they are historically bad, this Southampton team.
Yeah. So, I mean, losing to United 3-1. Well, and then the other
What's wild about that game is not that they lost 3-1, is that they were winning until the 82nd minute and then gave up a hat trick in the following 10 minutes. That's what's phenomenal about it. Is essentially like, it seems to me that they were like they held it together for as long as they could, and then after the first goal was scored, all of their confidence broke and their ability to withstand broke. And so they just ran out of gas. So that's that,
I just went down a little rabbit hole to see who is their backup and if it's worth it. And their backup's he's a 35-year-old keeper. He was with Palace before he came to Southampton in 2016. His name's Alex McCarthy. And he's been with Southampton ever since. So it would stand to reason if a goalkeeper's making blunders like that and has a broken hand, that seems like at least halfway reliable backup who has Premier League experience, you would just put him in there.
Well, he's played a number of games for Southampton this season so far.
Okay.
When Ramsdale was out injured, and so it's not like he hasn't been playing when Ramsdale was injured. I thought it was interesting. Sean, you and I should discuss this North London derby. Sure. Arsenal win the game 2-1. How you were predicting an Arsenal win in that game, correct?
I think so.
Hold on.
I think I did.
You did.
Patrick 21. He did predict Arsenal on the sheets. Wow.
He also picked it on the podcast.
I don't know. I thought it was a really close game. I mean, you get a silly own goal. I think that was off a corner, right?
Yeah. Yes.
It was Solanke. It was like a little ball bouncing around.
It was a deep corner. Gabriel heads it down into Solanke, into Dragusin, into the goal.
Yeah, and we had a little chat about this. I'm remembering it now. I don't necessarily see that as an own goal. I thought it was on target to begin with, and that's what constitutes it, right? If the deflection puts it onto the net, then that constitutes it. Yeah, but if it was already on target, then it's Gabriel's goal.
I think the idea is like, if you eliminate the defender and nobody else is there, is the ball on target? And
so that's what it's saying. It's saying Kinski would save it.
No. It's saying that Gabriel, when he heads the ball, if you were to project that trajectory forward, the ball was not going in the net. And that's therefore, essentially, it seemed like to me that he used Solanke as a backboard, as an unwitting backboard. essentially. He heads it down. It would have gone back into the scrum, and maybe it goes in anyway. But because he's heading it back, it hits off Solanke. He was trying to score. Like, don't get me wrong, Gabriel was trying to score that. He just didn't have the right angle. But yeah, like, and then I think also if you think about the second goal that Arsenal scored, it was Basuma loses it at midfield. Partey strips it. One pass to Odegaard. Odegaard shifts it out wide to Trossard. And then Trossard shoots from the left side inside the 18-yard box, maybe 15, 16 yards away from the goal, across the goal. And Kinski gets there. The ball just bounces up at the last minute and goes over his glove and goes into the net. And you watch that and you're like, you kind of want your goalkeeper to save that. Like,
yeah, but definitely Trossard made it extremely difficult.
Sure.
By pounding it low and hard and into the ground.
Absolutely.
And Radu gave him all of the space in the world. Like, I don't know if that's instructions or if that's just like how he plays, but every time I've seen him against like a striker, he's backing up.
Yeah, but Trossard wants to cut that inside and get it on his right.
I'm with you. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no way there was no attempt to take away the cutback with the right foot.
What's funny is he did that. That kind of resulted in an Everton goal that we'll talk about later. But he does that a lot, where he'll back up and back up and back up. And I don't know if he's been watching Virgil van Dijk film, but Virgil does that. But at a certain point, Virgil sees his point and goes in and gets the ball, and Radu does not.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's looking for while he's backing up. But it's like he's trying to emulate it, but doesn't have the intuition to know, okay, there's my point. Let me go steal this ball. And that's kind of the limbo he put himself in there.
But at the same time, my other point, beyond just like you expect Kinski to say that, Arsenal pressed this stuffing out of Spurs and pressed Spurs into a number of mistakes in this match. Mm-hmm. Had Arsenal capitalized on the number of mistakes that Tottenham made in their defensive third due to Arsenal pressing, Arsenal would have scored like 4 or 5 goals. The kind of the issue was that we didn't capitalize on almost any of our interceptions in the defensive third for Spurs. Like, we would steal the ball or press the ball or something like that, and we'd end up with the ball, and we just didn't score any of those opportunities. And so
the sheet I'm looking at doesn't show these, but Kinski makes a ton of really good saves in the game, and there were a ton of blocks as well. So to your point, I mean, getting that final execution.
Yeah, and so I obviously it was nervy at the end because only 1 goal lead. Spurs in the last 5 or 6 minutes definitely were pressing for that goal, and I was nervous, obviously. And so I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a fair result. Especially going into halftime. Halftime 2-1. With the way that we dominated the first half, I really thought that was a fair reflection of the scoreline. I thought our goals were fortuitous, but I also thought that the Spurs goal was quite against the run of play.
100%. I was gonna say that, like, the Suns' goal kind of came out of nowhere, out of nothing.
Yeah,
which I credit to him for being able to create that kind of stuff. So,
sure,
right?
Yeah. It was from a corner. Ball gets cleared, and Son he's on the outside of the box. He hits it well, takes a deflection, puts it past Raya. And I mean, like I remember watching. I was sitting on the couch, and my wife and son were watching with me, and they both just had like the same reaction when that goal went in. And I was just saying that I thought that was funny. They also had the same exact reaction when Trossard scored. They both like jumped up and were like, "Yeah!" in the same mannerisms and the same voice. And I was like, "Oh, look at that! They're the same person." Do you want to jump directly to Spurs against Everton, or should we maybe go up to St. James's Park first? What do you prefer, Sean?
So, let's knock out Spurs.
Okay.
It was frustrating. It was the early game, I believe.
On Sunday?
Yeah. And I wake up to 3-0 at halftime, and that's when I texted the ominous text of maybe the players are trying to get Ange fired. But
because you text us this because like a day or so before you sent us like a news story that said that apparently management at Spurs had like a clear the airs talk with the players and or made it clear to the players that like that Ange was the manager and like nothing you can do will get him sacked or anything like that.
Yeah. So that was present on my mind. And then you wake up to 3-0 at halftime and you're like, okay, all right, maybe they are.
Yeah.
But the second half was a different story. And then when I watched the first half back, I could see it was a different formation. The first 2 goals was just Archie Gray's inexperience to an experienced Calvert-Lewin, who just gets him to turn his hips and then cuts behind him. You know, he's in a good defensive position. He turns the hips to go with where he thinks Lewin's going. Lewin cuts behind him, bangs it with the right foot. That's an 18-year-old midfielder playing center back. I mean, against a top half striker when he's on.
That's a generous statement about Calvert-Lewin.
What's funny is the commentary. What's funny is the commentary agreed. Clinical Calvert-Lewin scores here, and I was like, "When the heck has he been clinical?"
How many goals does he have this year?
Like probably 3,
1, something like that.
That would be really funny if it's 1. I'm not gonna lie.
It is. It was this weekend. Yeah. So
no, he's got 3.
Oh, okay. But he also wasn't playing.
Yeah, he's been injured. He's
injured a lot. Anyways, the second one, like we just talked about, Rade was just backing up. I think it was Njai, I believe, was the goal scorer. And just had him on the back foot, and then finally Njai's like, okay, that's enough room for me, and he just bangs it off the top net.
I'm close enough
Off the top net, and there's nothing Kinski can do with that. And they're hitting it that high and fast. I mean, even if you get a hand to it, it's still just going to deflect in.
So here's a weird question that I have, because at the end of December, maybe early January, the reports came out that like Tottenham weren't going to be in the market for a goalkeeper, that they were happy with Fraser Forster, and like. What changed? Did he get injured? Like, is he hurt, or was this just like a market opportunity that presented itself with Kinski, and they jumped on it, and they figured they might as well, get some experience for their 18-year-old?
He wasn't doing very good. He wasn't playing very well. I mean, he is a serviceable backup. I'm not gonna poo-poo him, but he's also like 37.
Sure. Yeah.
And then he got sick. And he's been out. Apparently, he just joined training sessions this past week.
I'm going to make a joke here that's insensitive, but like cold and flu does affect geriatric people worse than young 18-year-olds.
Yeah, so he was sick and they had to do something. And I mean, that the illness that's been going around, I don't know what it is, but when it hits a player at Tottenham, they're out for a couple weeks. It's kind of crazy. So it is. They just saw an opportunity, went for it.
Okay.
Somebody they were watching for a while, and that seems like a good signing.
Vicario is what, 22, 23? Younger than that?
He's 25 or 26.
Oh, okay, so he's older than I thought.
Yeah, and then this kid's 21. So
I thought Kinski was 18.
I believe he's 21.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Fact checking.
Okay, I mean, but that could present an issue down the line next year, because obviously Vicario is the number 1 at Tottenham, and if you're 21 and you're a goalkeeper, you need to be playing. You can't be the cup keeper at 21. You need to be playing somewhere. So I would imagine that Kinski goes on loan next year, and we'll see.
Maybe they like him better.
I mean, they signed to a 6-year deal or 5.5-year deal.
I mean,
that's a 6-year deal is probably worth a loan at the beginning, and then they get 4 years out of them.
It's not a 10-year deal.
Yeah, I was gonna say we didn't even think about bringing this up. I didn't even think about it until you said that. But there was a 9.5-year contract that was signed just this week by a certain player at a certain club who may or may not be a robot. I think if we're supposed to take anything away from what Manchester City's been doing this January with their signings and with this contract extension for Erling Haaland, I think the main takeaway is that they beat the charges, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I think
they beat the case.
My main takeaway is they think they're at least minimum getting a transfer ban, and they're trying to get out in front of that.
Oh, no, I disagree. I think they beat the case.
I think that's a fair assumption as well. I hope they get like a 6-year transfer ban. That would be great. But I would also like them to get relegated to non-existence.
Yeah.
They get relegated to the Icelandic League. That would be fair. A quick comment on the Arsenal Villa match. Arsenal squandered a 2-goal lead in this match, up 2-0 in the first half, and were unable to convert that to 3 points. The game ends 2-2. Dropped points against Liverpool, who had beaten Brentford late earlier that day, and so Arsenal drop off the pace a little bit against Liverpool because of that result. It's a weird one because much like Tottenham, Arsenal are having quite a number of injuries right now. I don't know if it's as catastrophic as Spurs, but I also think we also have a deeper squad than Spurs. Obviously, we have more than 3 recognized center backs on our roster, and so we have one presently that's healthy, but I'm just talking about on the depth chart at the beginning of the year. I think we had at least 6, 7 if you count Timber as a center back, which he does for the Dutch. So I guess my point is that while our injury issues aren't as severe as Tottenham are, there was a complete gulf in quality when you compared the bench for Aston Villa to the bench for Arsenal. Arsenal's one senior attacking player on the bench was Raheem Sterling. And that's a problem because
what do you mean? That's a GOAT right there.
Yeah, GOAT for Chelsea because Chelsea's paying his wages. I don't that's not going to do it. And so if Arsenal want to have any chance to turn this season into something good, they need to sign an attacker. And not a winger. We need a center forward. We need a Victor Gyökeres or a Benjamin Sesko or an Alexander Isak, all of which we won't sign because it's incredibly difficult to sign a high quality center forward in January. I guess Victor Osimhen is available if you pay Napoli enough money,
and they got to pull him back from Turkey,
which I don't think is a problem. I think there's a break clause in January if a team comes calling for Victor Osimhen. But it doesn't seem like that's a signing that Arsenal will make. I think the most likely one that I've heard is Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig, but I don't actually think that's going to happen. But we'll see. It was a disappointment. I was bitterly disappointed. We had a goal that was disallowed on a VAR review. Obviously, it was disallowed for handball. It was a good call. It was just very disappointing. The ball just strikes Kai Havertz's arm and goes in. Nothing. He didn't try to do it. It was unintentional. But that's what happens. That's how the rule works. And so it was quite disappointing. But I think one of the I don't know if it's a shocking result. I don't know if I'm surprised by this result. But Bournemouth win at St. James's Park 4-1.
Yeah.
Just beat the stuffing out of Newcastle.
Turned into prime Real Madrid. I think it was Joel's quote on this one. They Like I got to watch a good chunk of it. The pressing that Bournemouth did in that game was impressive. Like they were oppressive to what Newcastle was trying to do. I mean, double the shots on target. Relentless would be the best word. Hat trick for Clover. Tyler Adams bossing the midfield.
Yeah, Tyler Adams has actually looked really good for Bournemouth so far this year.
Now that he's healthy and moving, yeah.
Said that. I said Chelsea should sign him.
I said that too. I was like, oh, we should sign this guy. Then like, oh, he's too hurt. Never mind. But I agree.
Yeah, he's a
workhorse.
Yeah.
When healthy.
Just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs.
No, I mean, like, yeah, to boss that midfield that Newcastle keeps putting out there, like, that's strong, very very strong. I thought they might have turned around when Bruno scored that goal. It's like, oh, okay, maybe Newcastle can get into this, and then like it just got shut down.
They scored 20 minutes after.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, yeah. Okay, I got you. I know.
Slammed the door shut right before half.
Yep.
Well, that's
gotta suck the wind out of St. James too. When they, you feel like you're into it. Go in the 6th minute, Bruno brings it back. Stadium's buzzing, and in the 44th minute, Kluivert takes the wind out of the stadium.
Yeah, that was going to be my point. Is that like you work really hard, get back in the game, and then that goal right before halftime, it really does impact the, I don't know if the mentality is not necessarily the right word, but like it impacts your just the way that you approach the second half, just generally speaking. And I think Bournemouth had a third goal disallowed midway through the second half. I remember looking up and seeing it was 3-1, and then looking back a few minutes later and it was 2-1. So they at least had one goal disallowed by a VAR review at some point. Oh, there it is in the 61st minute. And so, at that point you're like, okay, they're still in it. They're still, they can still do it. But then I think they just ran out of steam right at the end of the game, and Bournemouth pour 2 in.
Here's the question.
Ask the question.
Is Eddie Howe, does Eddie Howe just pull off just a little bit whenever he plays Bournemouth? This is Eddie's club. Like Eddie brought them from obscurity to Premier League championship. Why do you keep looking at me weird, Sean? I'm just asking a question because it always seems like Newcastle doesn't play well against Bournemouth.
I don't know. I mean, maybe just Ariola cooks it up.
He is a phenomenal manager. He is going to get snatched up by somebody somewhere.
I heard
worst decision of his life.
I heard Bournemouth got a Chelsea manager and Chelsea signed a Bournemouth manager by one of the toxic Twitter accounts for Chelsea. And I was like, that's stupid.
What was my point going to be? Oh, do you think it's subconscious or active on Eddie Howe's part? Do you think like there's just like some sort of like mental block in his brain where he's just like he can't get the tactic right? His brain won't let it be. He just can't do it because it's Bournemouth, or is it more sinister, more
That's
nefarious?
What I'm saying. No, I think this is like like in the back of his mind he just can't get it right. Because he thinks like, oh, it's Bournemouth, it's my team. I know what to do, but it's completely different.
Yeah, it's not his team. Ariel has got them playing phenomenally well. They're up to 7th. They are 3 points off of 4th. So who knows, man? Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. All these teams are out here vying for a Champions League spot. And so I think we're going to have such an exciting end of the season. It's going to be great. Nothing needs to be said about Manchester City. Scored 6 goals against Ipswich. Whoop-de-doo. Well done, Pep. But yeah, that's all we've got in this episode for you. Check back on Friday. We will be previewing match or round 23. Excuse me, that's the weekend fixtures we got coming up. We'll also go over our picks, see how everyone did last week. We'll invite you to join us in that endeavor if you want to get some picks in. But until that time, I hope you guys enjoy. I think there's Champions League, Europa League on, depending on when you watch this. So there is football on that you can be enjoying. Until then, hit us up on social media. That guy up top is at KSBradG. Down below is at Whiteheart_Sean. I am at James Tiffany. Collectively, we are at redcard_radio. info.redcardradio@gmail.com if you want to reach us via email. And we hope you guys enjoy the football throughout the week, and we will talk to you very soon. Have a good one.